Research shows that you can literally rewire your brain to make more money, to live more generous and joyful, and to actually build and create the life of your dreams. And I think you'll be shocked to find out exactly how. I'm Dan Sullivan. I'm a neurostrategist, and I believe designed by God. I am passionate about the brain and neuroscience. And what I found out is there's a lot of confusing ideas when it comes to business success and business growth. Maybe you found the same thing. I'm here to help you think and build your dreams into a reality. If you like content or topics like this one, subscribe below or like and comment. I will respond to as many as I can. So the first thing you have to understand when you're rewiring your brain for more abundance and prosperity is the realization that you can change it. If you can't grab a hold of this concept that you can change it, then it won't ever change. But if you can figure out and realize that it can change, then the entire thing changes. So you may be stuck right now where your intellect, your mind is not matching up with your vision. This vision that you feel like you have, this destination, right? This calling that you have in your spirit that you're not there yet, and you maybe even haven't tapped into it yet, that your brain hasn't grabbed a hold of it. I want to show you that's where we rewire it. And so I want to tell you first off, I did a video that's linked right up here that is talking about neuroplasticity and this idea that you can mold your brain. The research is crystal clear. You can mold your brain. You don't change the tissue, you change the synapses. So I did a video that you can check out on how to, and it's very simple. I do not like complex things. Even though I love the neuroscience and I love neurology, I love the brain, I need it simple. Give me like a fifth grader. And so in that video, I laid out how and why neuroplasticity works. I bring that full circle here is because you are the way you are because of the situation that you've put in your brain so far. You've wired your brain thus far. Why can't you rewire? And the reality is you can, and I'm giving you permission to. And so for me, when I think back to the way I was raised, I remember I was 8 years old and I took my two little sisters to an event at our elementary school. And my mom was working there. It was an ice cream social. If some of you are familiar, remember those. An ice cream social is where you go and you kind of play games as a kid, and there's a bunch of cakes and ice cream and all these things. And my mom was serving food, I think, and she had tickets for us inside. But my dad had given me $4. And I had my two siblings, my two little sisters, Amy and Abby, were with me. And so I take them and we walk to the school, 6 blocks to our school. And in order to get in, I had to have a ticket. My mom had tickets in her pocket, and I knew that. But I was unwilling, in my shyness and introverted self, I was unwilling to say, I need to go past you right now to go to my mom and then I'll bring you back tickets. I didn't have the confidence. And so I remember it was $1 to get in, and so my dad had given me $4. I took out 3 of those, and I paid for myself and my 2 siblings to get in, even though my mom had tickets. I come back home, and I remember my dad being very upset that I'd spent money on something I didn't have to spend money on, and it was $3. And to me at that point, what it reminded me of is, that means that $3 is a big deal. Our family may not have money right now to do something, or we're running out of money because of my decision I made in those $3. And I understand now at 8 years old, you think, well, man, that was not a big deal. But at me, it was a big deal. I had wired into my brain how big of a deal $3 was. And then I constantly heard, money doesn't grow on trees, and take what you could get, and these things about and I saw my parents struggle, and we didn't have, I would say lower to middle classes. So I didn't get new shoes every year and these things. There was a lot of hand-me-downs. My point in saying this is, that's the way I was wired around money. And so I've had to work at this a lot. But one of the things that I want you to really shine a light on for yourself is realize where that came from my own dad was from his dad. And then his dad actually lived through the Great Depression. And if you study the Great Depression, everything was, nobody knew where the money was coming from. And so you hoarded everything, and money didn't grow on trees, and you took what you got. And so when you realize that that's where the mentality came from, we're out of those years. And so now you can say, hey, this is how I raise my kids now, but more importantly, I still carried some of that wiring that I need to unravel. And so it's empowering when you know where it come from, even though, I love my dad, I love my mom, I had a great upbringing, there was a lot of things, but there are certain things when it comes to abundance and prosperity that I've had to work at to rewire my own brain. What's even crazy to think about is just 100 years ago, the average income spent on food and drink was 50%, and now it's 15%. So say it again. The average income, 50% was having to spend on food and drink alone just 100 years ago. So you start to understand where this comes from. Sometimes I think, my wife spends that much, I think, on food. It seems like sometimes. I'm joking, but sometimes it feels that way. But the number one thing that you have to recognize, or that we have to do in order to change and kind of rewire our brain, is it's all about repetition. But it's repetition around the right reference points. So you're going to start to create repetitive firing in your brain around correct and good reference points. Let me explain what I mean by that. So if your current patterns are, I will always be poor, or I will always be fat, or I will always be unhealthy and not fit, or I could never afford to have the house of my dreams, or I'm not cut out for this entrepreneurship. If that is your current patterns and that's the thing that you're consistently, repetitively telling yourself, then nerves that fire together wire together. That's the neuroscience lingo, but that simply means the more you think of those things, the more you'll find areas of your life to prove that. So say it again, when you have these patterns and thought processes that are wired, you're then going to look for areas of your life of proof that those are facts. So when you don't make your wake-up call, or you eat the wrong thing, or you fall off track with your diet, or you don't make the money or you just look at your bank account and it's not where you want it to be, you consistently find ways to prove to yourself why you're not enough, why you can't be abundant, why you can't get the prosperity. And so what we have to do is we have to repetitively change those reference points. And here's how we go about that. So I want you to think about the day when you had money in your bank account beyond what you were expecting. I want you to think about a day when you were more disciplined. I want you to think about a day you hit your workout, you hit your diet. I want you to think about a day you had a great relationship, a great marriage. Because when you think about those days and then you actually know that that's who you are, I'm not saying this is easy, and I'm surely not saying this is very abstract theory. There's something called the reticular activating system. It's part of your brain that when you wire this thing, for instance, you have a car you want to buy. I'm telling you, this happens every time. When you have a car and you start looking at what car, you say, yep, I want this car. I want a Jeep Wrangler. And you start to look at that, you start to see Jeep Wranglers everywhere. When your spouse, so for me, when my wife got pregnant for the first time, I end up seeing all these pregnant women everywhere. Because why? You were more in tune to it. There's been something you want, and all of a sudden you see it everywhere. A certain color of paint you want to paint your walls, and everybody has it now. It's not that everybody has it, it's just that now you pay attention to it. What you think about, you bring about. And that's, from a very neurological standpoint, that's the reticular activating system fired off. So why not create a new reference point? The day you did do what you're supposed to do and had the money, the abundance, had the prosperity, had the follow through, had the sales, had the ability to deliver results in your business, or be fit, or exercise, or make a right choice, or be disciplined. Because then when you focus there, that's who you are. If you've done it one day, you have proof of it. That's who you are. And so there was the study of 3 groups. One group shot free throws. And because they practiced, they had 24% better in their free throws. A second group didn't practice anything, didn't think about anything. They got 0% better. The third group actually just visualized themselves shooting free throws and making free throws. Just visualized. They did not pick up a basketball. They literally just visualized it, and they got 22% better at their free throws by just visualizing it. Almost as good as the people that actually shot. The same thing happened with piano players who visualized practicing the piano, actually got just as good as those that practiced. What does that tell us? Is the brain is literally wired for what you feed it. So we want to fire these new reference points that you're creating. Look for evidence as to why you are that prosperous, abundant, accomplished human. And I'm going to tell you, when you start to stack the deck there, it starts to change. And so that's where you start to rewire it and build these synapses that prove you are that abundant, prosperous, achieving human. And I'll have you remember this key element is that it's always about the slight edge. It's never a huge breakthrough. You can't have a huge breakthrough in your abundance and prosperity overnight. And I've referenced this book by Jeff Olson called The Slight Edge. You've heard me speak about this before if you saw the video. And that is, it's so brilliant of a concept saying you don't get there overnight and you don't get there with a big breakthrough. It's the same thing. To rewire your brain takes time and repetition. Neurologically, I can prove this up and down. The point is nerves that fire together, wire together. Create these new reference points. Show proof. Find proof in your life why you are the person, the abundant, prosperous, achieving human that I think you are, that I think in deep down you know you are. And the other element in there, if you want a bonus tip, write 3 things down every day that prove to yourself or that are evidence as to why you are, right? I remember Tony Robbins said this one time. He said, you just redefine failure. The only way you could possibly fail is if you didn't learn or give your best. So that means even if the outcome wasn't what you want, if you learned from it and you gave your best, you didn't fail. And it's the same thing. You create a new reference point. So that means you're not scared of failure, not scared of rejection because you redefine it. That's the same thing. How this brain, this neuroplastic brain that can change, you're going to win with it. And so I just get fired up about this because you can change. But here's the key. It's a big but, right? Whether you think you're right or you're wrong, you're right. And so that kind of concludes that we're all searching for this emotion, right? This emotion, whether it's, we think it's about money, we think it's about achievement or power or status, it's really this emotion. I'm here to tell you, when you start to rewire your brain, that's where joy comes from, and generosity and purpose and fulfillment and abundance and prosperity. And so you have it in you. I just want to remind you, you have it in you. It doesn't happen overnight. It's repetitious over time, and you can take that to the bank in every way that you would describe that: success, fulfillment, purpose, achievement, and everything in between. So, hey, if you like videos like this, if you want more of them, click that subscribe button, because I love making this stuff for you, and I want to bring more and more of this for you. But I want to see change. So click the like button. I'll comment to anything, as many as I can, and we'll for sure see you in the next one.